Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, alcoholics of all ages, people of all ages, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you've joined us today. This is amazing. Our first in-studio taping, and I couldn't be more blessed or more happy. And I couldn't be more blessed or more happy than to have the first guest on the in-studio taping than my buddy Mike. How you doing today, Mike?
Fantastic, Doug. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so stoked you're here, brother. So for the people that have no idea who you are, can you share a bit of your experience, strength, and hope with those people?
Sure, why not? So yeah, my name's Mike, and 36 years old, and I was. We'll start briefly at the beginning. I was born in Poland, and I lived in an orphanage for about 3 years until I was adopted, and then came to Canada. And then growing up, my father got sick with leukemia and passed when I was really young. So I spent virtually all my life with a single mother growing up, and I also have a sister who was also adopted. So I always start with those two things because for my story, those are my big traumas, my big things that really, I look back at it, were the ones that really set me on my path, my destructive path, we'll say. And then, so growing up, it was different. It was different because, I mean, as most people know, single parenting is really hard. I don't know. My wife and I have a beautiful 4.5-year-old daughter. But growing up, it was tricky because my mom had to be the dad, the mom, the judge, jury, executioner, everything. So it was, it was a happy childhood. But what I did know, growing up and looking back at it, is I always struggled with identity. I always struggled with who I was. Losing somebody really young, and having issues with attachment issues. Really, I did anything and everything I could to make sure somebody would like me, and that started really, really young, and I had to hide. I felt that I had to hide feelings, so I would, from a very young age, I would always ask, or not ask, but I would always insert myself into situations where people had really strong emotions. If they were really sad, then I was going to be really sad. If they were really, really happy, then I could be really happy. And it wasn't until probably about 15 years old where I started drinking, because that was the thing to do. And some people say they were born alcoholics. I don't know if I was born an alcoholic, but all the pieces were put in place for me to become one, and I guess it was whether or not I decided to run with it, and I did. Took the ball and ran with it. So yeah, probably around 15 years old, I started drinking casually, but I knew, I knew that feeling, that warm feeling, that freedom feeling that came with drinking alcohol, that I could finally have my emotions. Like I would go to parties, and I would always drink more than everybody else, even beforehand. It was just, once I the term liquid courage, when I found that what this did to my body and what it did to my mind especially, I was excited. I was like, I can't wait for Friday, Saturday, and then that would turn into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so it was. All high school, that's what it was, right? And then I'll jump to university. University for an alcoholic is the greatest place on earth. It's Disneyland, because you don't have parents. You don't, if you're fortunate enough like me, my mom did the best job she could raising me, so financially I was okay. So all that, my university was paid for, so any money that I had working I could spend on alcohol. And that was like I said, it was Disney World. So I that's what I did. I met my wife in university, and that was a wonderful experience for that. Yet I still hadn't addressed any issues. It was just still drinking, and it was accepted. University drinking was accepted, so that was wonderful. Even after university, I guess people may not know, but in recovery, there's, sayings where, where's my brain going on this one? Is that, it's acceptable to drink. Sorry, you know what? I lost it. But anyways, there's always a reason to drink, right? And for me, that's what I was doing all throughout university and after I graduated. I always found a reason to drink. You know, if I got a new job, or you know, I had a bad day, or if it was I had a good day, or you know, whatever it was, I needed to drink because I started to get to a point where I couldn't function without alcohol in my system. You know, fast forward to 2 years ago. You know, like I said, my daughter's almost 5 years old, and for the first few years of her life, I was drinking heavily as well. I never really stopped. Well, I did. I stopped for about 6 months, what the community calls being a dry drunk. Didn't address any issues in my life. I just said, if I quit drinking, then I'm going to be okay, and I will be fine. And on the outside, I looked fine. I mean, I looked great. I was cooking a lot. I was doing, you know, I was involved with my family, you know, or I was involved with my wife and everything. Yet, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable because I thought the substance, you know, in my case, alcohol, was the problem. Well, it wasn't the problem. The problem was me. It was what was going on inside my head, and why I needed alcohol to shut it up, to quiet everything that was going on in my head. So yeah, after that 6 months, I had about 3 months of really heavy alcohol abuse. That was a friend of mine asked me the other day. You know, a really good friend of mine. He didn't know the details of my story, but I figured, you know, I've known him my whole life almost. And he was like, "So how bad did it actually get?" I was like, "Well, you know how, you know, it started out with a couple of tall boys when I first went back to drinking again, and then it turned into 6, 8, 10. There were nights where I'd even have 18, and that was because after I had quit that first time, the guilt and the shame and the mental anguish that I was adding on top of myself because I couldn't stay sober made me drink even more. You know, like I always looked at it like I would use drinking to shut up the voices in my head, you know. And when I guess you could call it a relapse, even though I hadn't actually tried to quit, those voices were doubled. It was just so loud. So I needed to double and triple my intake because they were saying, "Oh, well, now look at you. You're even more of a failure because you couldn't actually quit." And it was terrible. It was really bad. So, you know, anyway, fast forward again, you know, it's the night before I quit, my wife had come downstairs. I had told her I quit drinking. I said that I was done. It was fine, but that was obviously a lie. I used building things in my garage as an excuse, so that's what I did. I built all these really awesome things that are still around, so the quality was good, but I was hammered the entire time doing all of these things just because it was an excuse to get in.
Right.
You know, I would drink at lunchtime in the truck, and then I'd go home. Actually, I wouldn't even go home. I'd stop and grab a couple more beers, sit in a parking lot, and then go home and be like, "Oh, hey, honey," and you know, I have one. I show her one, and go, or maybe not even, show her one. Just go in the garage and start building things. And yeah, so I would also do family things like pick up my daughter, do a lot of driving. So I did drive under the influence fairly often with my daughter in the car. And when my wife came downstairs that final night, she found some empties and, you know, had already given me an ultimatum that they were going to leave. And by this point, I was so broken and beat down that I said, okay. You know, some people, if it's, you know, if spirituality is their thing, you know, call it a God moment, or, you know, my mental awakening, whatever it was, you know, a moment of clarity. It was that I can't do it. So my wife said, you have to get help. You have to do something or we're leaving. And I knew I had no fight left in me to try to do it myself, to you know, clean up my act. But I was actually really, really lucky that I did this. Because I was able to, my side note, my family, my mom's side of the family has mental health and substance abuse issues, and my uncle is in recovery, and he's doing quite well. So my mom had gone through this already once, and So she just took it upon herself to find me a therapist that specialized in alcohol and substance abuse. And yeah, I've been with that person for 2 years now, just over 2 years. And it made a huge difference. I was sober for about a month until I entered recovery officially, I guess you'd call it, with a, well, not officially, the minute I put down drinking, I was in recovery. But a month in, I entered AA, the AA program. And yeah, it's done wonders for me. What I thoroughly enjoy about AA, and I think is one of the most important parts about recovery, as a community. You know, AA talks about steps and all this stuff, but I'm not here to talk about that. I want to talk about my own recovery and what recovery means to me. And recovery is about community. It's about knowing you're not alone. I mean, I would drink so often in the basement, alone, in the dark, because I would just say to myself, oh, it's not worth going out. You're not worth going out. You're the only person that deals with this problem. The term is terminally unique, I guess, right? And that's what I thought. I thought, oh, no one understands me. No one cares about me or whatever. And so it was self-sabotage, right? And until I entered the recovery rooms, and I realized that I'm not alone in this, it's made a world of difference, for sure. Because recovery's not easy. And it's because nothing changes, nothing has changed in my life from a day-to-day aspect. It's not like when you hit recovery and, you go to the bank and they're like, oh, hey, you're in recovery now, here's $1 million, good for you. It's just, you don't get a new house, you don't get these things right away. It's just, life is the same, but how do you view life? How do you see yourself? How do you see the world outside of you? And good things do come, because I believe that we self-sabotage in addiction. We just try and ruin our lives because of problems that we haven't addressed. So when I started the work, with my therapist and through the recovery program, I really wanted to get into why I was drinking. It was everyone has their vice, whether it's drugs or alcohol or, sex or, whatever vice, whatever addiction it is, it's just giving you that Band-Aid. It's giving you that, I use it as like a warm blanket feeling. It's like you're really cold in normal life out there. Life sucks, it's so cold. And then you get your substance, you put your warm blanket on, you feel good. I wanted to know why I was so cold all the time. And for me, it stemmed from my abandonment, attachment traumas growing up. And I still work on that stuff today. Recovery is a lifelong process. So knowing what I know, it's just, I'm glad that I did it now. Because when I first entered recovery, I think I thought I didn't deserve to be here. Because I hadn't crashed a car, I hadn't cheated on my spouse, I hadn't lost a job, I hadn't done all these things. And I thought, there are other people worse off than me. But then some people told me some really good advice, and it's that we all deserve to be healthy. We all deserve recovery, and we all deserve to do well. And when I understood that, I started to feel a lot better. I was like, okay. And I think that's one of the big things that I like to tell people, and I think is really important, is that it's the little stuff in our life that has caused us a lot of problems. We think, that disagreement with our spouse, or we think that, our child yelling at us, or our boss, telling us off, or something like that is inconsequential. But it's those little things that we used to make a huge deal about. We used to just hold on, and drink them away, or smoke them away, or whatever it is. And it's having a community to share those little problems with has made all the difference. It's just, we're all worth it. We're all worth having happiness, and healthiness, and whatever problem, whether it's big or small, I think it deserves sharing, deserves being discussed, and being shared with a person. It's one of the things they say is that it's never go into your head alone. it's a scary place, and I know that. I didn't want to go in my head, because it was scary up there. And then since I entered recovery, meeting so many wonderful people in this community, that I understand. Excuse me. I understand that I'm actually not as crazy as I thought I was. We make such a big deal out of so many things that I'll call up somebody or I'll message somebody and say, "Oh, I'm having a bad day, this, that, and the next thing," and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool." And instead of saying, "Oh, well, that's no big deal," which so many people said, our problems were never valued, so that's why we had to drink them away. We didn't have self-worth. We didn't have, confidence in ourselves. We didn't have a lot. I know for myself, I didn't have any of those things. So now, it's like, okay, you know what? We have crap days. We have crap weeks. But at least I know that I've got people that love me and a community that will help me through, and that it's going to be a lifelong journey, and I'm okay with that.
Good.
I can't complain.
Good. Thanks, Mike, for sharing that with us. You touched on a lot of points that I think are important. So, like, I'm going to bring something up. Like, if the OPP are watching this, you don't have to set up a ride check at 9 o'clock at night. There's day drinkers, and I was one of them. I was the guy that sat there and drank all day, and then said, "Wow, I ran out of booze. I'm going to go get some more." So,
Yep.
I did it all the time, and I think back, thank goodness, I didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's a really good point. Something else you brought up that really spoke to me was community, right? Where we self-isolate.
Yes.
When we're by ourselves, and then you get into these recovery rooms, and it's like, well, I want you to meet this person. I want you to meet this person. I want you to meet this person. And you meet, soon enough, you have this whole community of people that you can rely on if you're ever having a bad day. So yeah, those were really cool things that you brought up, and I'm so happy for you, as a friend, and I'm so blessed that you've come into recovery. But for the people listening at home, why is it important today for Mike to recover out loud?
Yeah, that's a good question, Doug. I think it's important to recover out loud because of something that I'd shared earlier, and I'll expand on it. It's that I didn't feel like I needed to be here. There's a lot of people when they think of addicts, they think of the fall down drunk guy who's on the side of the road. They think of a heroin addict. They think, a person who's addicted to cocaine. Whatever visual you have, there's a stereotype, and I think there's a lot of people out there who are suffering from, some form of addiction, but feel they haven't hit that criteria yet. And so they say, well, it's not that bad. It's not, I don't deserve to go. There's other people that need these rooms or these services or whatever. And the problem is they'll eventually get there, because that will happen. I mean, if we don't try to heal ourselves and to help ourselves as soon as we feel that we want to, then it's just going to get worse. So for me, recovering out loud, for me, it's like I look put together because I'm blessed that I made this choice early in my life to do it. And I think everyone deserves to know that they can enter these rooms at any stage of their life.
Right. Yeah, and for the people at home, like when we talking about recovering out loud, it's we're not driving down the street with a big banner on our car saying, "I'm in recovery, follow me." It's kind of like you wear your program on your sleeve, right? And you're not afraid to talk about the struggles that we went through, and if somebody needs help, we're there to offer it. So I've seen the benefit myself of recovering out loud. This show is recovering out loud, right? So it's it's good. It's a good thing, and you might have some people that say it's a bad thing, but I've seen the benefits again from it, and I just don't think I can go back to just but you're going to be starting a new venture, Mike. You're going to be going into a new job, new counseling. How do you think your recovery today, knowing what you know, is going to benefit you in that that kind of journey in your life?
No, thanks, Doug. Yeah, it's because of recovery and because of everything that I've gone through in my life, I realized that I want to do something meaningful, and I want to help people because of the way I've been helped. So I'm currently, I think, about 6 months into a master's program for to become a psychotherapist, to become a counselor, and I think that my experience in recovery is just that. It's giving me experience. You know, I had a Zoom meeting last night with one of my professors, and we were talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, and we did some intro about ourselves, and I told him my story, and his takeaway was, wow, good for you, but you have life experience. So I mean, I don't have a psychology degree, I don't have any of that stuff, but I've got life experience, and that's what I hope to bring to people, to clients. You know, I like you said, my recovery is out loud, and I want people to, when they share with me, to know that I've gone through some of this stuff, you know, and I know people that are currently going through it. I may not know everything, but at least I've been experienced quite a bit. So I'm hoping that I can bring that forward and help a lot of people on their journey, you know, help guide them. So
I think you will. I think we all do when we get to this stage. You know, we all want the best for somebody else.
Yep.
You know, and that was really kind of like shocking for myself to discover those things, that wow, I can have feelings for other people, not just myself.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can get our egos can get like huge, and all I think about is myself.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this show for the benefit of myself. I'm doing it for the benefit of other people, spreading awareness and doing those sorts of things. But there is still a stigma, Mike, around people like us, around drug addicts, around alcoholics. You know, what would you say to somebody that, you know, thinks that alcoholics are just people under a bridge with the brown paper bags? You know, what would your answer be to those people that still have that stigma around recovery? Well,
I just think any type of stigma in general is just a lack of education. It's just a lack of experience. I'm going through it now because, you know, with school, talking a lot about, you know, ethics and multiculturalism and all these different things that I was not privy to. I didn't know. So I think it's the same thing with people who look at alcoholics and drug addicts. They're people that probably don't have any family members or don't have any friends that are involved. Not anybody maybe close to them that's been involved with that type of thing. And I think recovering out loud can hopefully shift that stigma and to show people that, yeah, it can get really bad and these people can turn like this, but recovery can bring us to this, you know, to people like you and I and the rest of your guests and everyone that you've touched over the years. You know, we're all different, but we're all the same. So.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier, it kind of reminded me of, like, you know, the Dr. Seuss book. Right. You know, like and then I have those things running through my head where I'm like, I drink when I'm mad, sad, glad, bad. You know, it didn't matter when I drank. But yeah, I had a woman ask me the other day, you know, why are you dressed like that? And I was like, what do you mean? And she knew I was in a recovery room, and she said, I didn't think addicts dressed like that, you know. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, we're human. Yeah. We're people too, right? So I think, you know, there definitely is still that stigma out there that exists in people's minds about who an addict or an alcoholic is. The first speaker I heard share their story in recovery was a lawyer who pulled up into the meeting spot in a Mercedes-Benz. And I thought, holy moly, like, this guy's got a Mercedes-Benz? Like, how do I do that? Yeah. You know, and he looked at me and he said, don't drink and go to meetings, you know? And that's what, you know, you and I have done over the past years. You know, but one question I want to ask you is, where do you see recovery going in the next 10 years?
Well, hopefully it becomes a little more public, we'll say. Not public as in airing dirty laundry type of public, but more of a more services available, you know, more accepting of the workplace stigma. I think that's a big problem. Just very quickly, trying to get mental health leave. There's a lot of companies out there that are they just don't believe it. They're driven by whatever it is, whether it's profits or greed or ignorance. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all of it comes down to not being educated on the problems. So they just say, oh, you're just having a bad day, or this or that. Those people that are going through that depression, that anxiety, substance abuse, whatever it is, they're not going to address it. They're not, because they need to work. They need to stay at work and provide for their family. So I think if we're able to really support people that are going through those issues, whether it's government assistance for taking a leave, or whatever it is, allowing people to do that work and to take advantage of those services, then I think that's going to make a huge difference. I think too many people are just scared to say those words, because even though they're going through a lot, whether it's their job or their or something, they just can't do it.
Right. One question, but I want to get one question really quick before we wrap this up. If I was to ask your family today, how's Mike doing, what would they say?
Very briefly, if you're asking me right this exact second, they say, "Oh, I'm glad he's gone to do this show because he's really pissing us off." That would be it. But no, overall, in the past two years and 2 months, then we've done fantastic, and they're so proud of me, and that's the reason I'm here, is because of them.
Oh, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy for your successes going forward. Thanks so much for joining us today on Canadian Sober A.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Canadian Sober A. Please come back and join us again. I love having you guys, and if you're needing help, if you're sitting at home and you're thinking about this and you need help, reach out. Reach out to myself, reach out to the recovery community, and get well. So thanks everybody. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.